Thank you so much for joining us on Straight Outta Savannah. I am super excited. My guest, Angel Deer, is here and he is going to share who he is, what he's all about, and how he can help you. So, Angel, take it away.
Wow, all for me now. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you. Well, first, I want to say I'm located in a beautiful land upstate New York in the Catskill Mountains.
Nice.
And aside from having, power cuts quite often, it's a beautiful landscape, and I live in nature on 7 acres of land. And
Nice.
I'm a shamanic teacher and healer. I run a big retreat center here that I opened 10 years ago now.
Nice.
And I have a school of ancient wisdom. I think that's the best way to describe it. Inspired by the teaching of Andean cosmology, which are the teaching that are coming from Peru, the Andes Mountain, where my teacher is from. And I've been going to Peru for over 15 years for my own transformation, for learning. And then people started asking me, can you teach? Can you share some of that? And long story short, that's how the school was born. And 10, 15 years later, that's mainly what I focus on.
So nice. So now take me back to where you started. Because I mean, I'm sure you didn't come out the womb being a spiritual teacher. I mean, take me back to how that transpired.
Yeah, that's an interesting question because I think every baby is a spiritual teacher. Every child is
You're
a
right about that.
is deeply connected, right? And I think my earliest uh, childhood memories are me being in nature, me being fascinated by the miracle of life,
Mm,
the intricacy of life,
yeah.
the details of a leaf in a tree, of insects, and yeah, all the microcosm that lives in the ground, in the soil, and the beauty of the landscape. And I
Mhm.
grew up in a mid-sized town, but my parents will bring my brother and I in nature every weekend, every holidays in the mountain, hiking and exploring, and I think I always had this eye that was curious to understand,
Yes.
curious to communicate with it.
Yeah.
So that was always there. I got lost in the process at some point because I went into a corporate career and in the business world, and wear a suit and a tie and live in buildings of concrete and very dry environment, let's say, for dry for the soul.
So what brought you to the place where you realized that that corporate environment wasn't feeding your soul?
Well, I was in the internet industry for my last job, I would say my last career job.
Mhm.
And I was doing quite well. I'd started my own startup with a friend. We raised some money. We grew it up together. And at some point, I guess, by the standard of society, we were supposed to be happy because
Yes.
we had the companies and we had, I think, 150 employees by that time, right? So
Yeah.
it was, success,
You had
definitely.
made it, right?
Yeah, we made it in some ways. Not that we were making a lot of money, I think, but we were living a good life, let's
Right.
say it that way. But my inner experience of joy was gone.
Yeah.
My inner experience of purpose was gone, of connection was gone.
Yeah.
And I suffered like many people that do this kind of ventures or work at, kind of high corporate level with a lot of stress, anxiety, bad sleep, and I ended up drinking and doing drugs and party and, trying to tame that pain.
Yes.
And I could not. I guess most people would say yes, stress is normal. Right? That's the kind of life you have if you have a big job. It's the joy is in other things, and it's on the weekend and the holidays, and
Yes.
yeah, maybe you can love the work you do and maybe even love the company you work for, But very often, at least that's what I was starting to realize, if it's not aligned with who you are supposed to be,
Yes.
that's going to cost you everything. Your
Yes.
your health, your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, and your
Ooh.
spirit, your kind of spark, right?
Yes. Yes.
So that was the realization at some point. I was like, oh, I've been climbing, achieving more and more. I was born and raised in Europe, and then I moved to UK, and then I moved to New York, and then I was running this company all across the US and Canada. So, okay, that should feel much better. It didn't feel much better. It kind of felt worse like on the human side, it didn't feel better, right? Yeah, the apartment and the car and a company and all that. Um, but I could see clearly, in that case, that was the turning point, what I might become if I stay, if I don't answer the call, what would be the cost I will have to pay for that.
Yes.
And that's when I decided to quit, to change everything.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
that
I
was
mean,
the
I say
first
that
ever.
in an easy way, but that was obviously a process, and there was a lot of turmoil and back and forth. It was not like just a stream of insights. I mean, it was kind of like that, but it took me time to kind of process it all and to put my life in order.
Yes. And that's important to share because, we're all on these journeys. And people think when we share these things, these revelations that we've gotten, they think that it's like a microwave. You just woke up one day and said, you know what? I can't do this no more.
Mm.
Then all of a sudden, you walked out of that job and everything was magical.
Mm.
But that's not it at all because there are processes and things that we have gone through. And so as you started making this change and as this process, what were some of the things that stood out to you? And I suppose it's some of the things that you help other people with because knowing the journey, we all know that when we go on the journey, we're the forerunners. And so then we can reach back and help other people and say,
Mm-hmm.
come on, I know you're disconnected, but I can help you.
Yeah, I think the first thing I realized is that the frame of reference of success that I was following was broken
Yes.
because I was not the only one to experience that.
Yeah.
In fact, in the year before leaving or in that transition, I lost a really dear friend of mine who was in his 30s and very successful and that committed suicide. And, he had just raised $20 million. He had a really successful, famous company at the time in the internet world. And, one day he just hang himself. And then I was like, that really shocked me because it's someone I knew and we were on stage together very often speaking, at conferences. And I didn't see that coming. And then I started to Google, depression, suicide, top CEOs, things like that. And I realized, wow, there's a lot of article about um, the level of pain that is often unspoken of because you can't really talk about it because you're running a business, because you have a
Right.
big team, because you have investors, because you don't want to acknowledge it.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, this is not what I want to do, and this is not how I want to live my life. And then I started looking around. I went to some different coach, I went to some healers, and I could not really find something that would really put me on the path.
Yeah.
And so I flew off to South America to meet some traditional native people, healers, spend a lot of time there to first heal myself, deconstruct my mind, my system of belief,
Yes.
learn a different map, a different GPS for the soul, as I call it,
Yes.
new GPS that works, that has proven over thousands of years to help people live a good life. and then I brought that back into the Western world, I would say, in some ways, and started to look at the world, not just the corporate world, but the social injustice and the environment and
Yes.
all the things society is not really dealing with.
Yes.
Kind of excluding it and trying to make a shiny castle, but not really talking about everyone, and realizing, oh yeah, that is why, this is why, this is why. And I realized that those very ancient teachings, they are timeless.
Yes.
They are timeless. They're not ancient, meaning that's for cavemen or living in a forest. They literally, you can bring them into your modern life with
Yes.
your house and your job and your car and your family and all that, and start directing all of that into a much more beautiful, joyful, purposeful life.
Yes.
And I applied it for me. I'm still working with this, and then at some point started to bring that into a format that is easier to understand for Western minds, I would say.
Yes.
uh, and that is applicable. I think very often people, I mean, there are beautiful ancient teaching like yoga teachings. There are spiritual traditions all over the world.
Yes.
Native Americans, you can go to Africa, you can go to Asia. There are people that carry amazing ancient wisdom,
Yes.
but it's always like, it looks like very different. It looks like, oh, those people don't look like me, or they live a very different life. And it's not always, even the yoga scriptures, everybody does yoga now. But if you study the yoga scriptures, they're very complex.
Yeah.
And it's not always easy to kind of transfer them into this life that we are living, right? But it's possible, and that's been kind of my aim since then. How do we bridge this ancient wisdom with this world of AI and tech and fast speed? And how do we solve not only our own suffering, but our collective turmoil, right? And what we're doing to each others and to the planet, and to
Yes.
ourselves ultimately, right?
I see you as a translator,
Yeah,
like of sorts, like translating the mystical and the ancient wisdom into something that people here can understand.
yeah, yeah. I like that. I like that. And I think there's people, that a little minority, that want to really study those teachings and understand them in their context and all of that, and that is great. But I think there is an urgent need for those teachings to infiltrate society,
Yes.
all level of it. Because if not, we are just going to keep repeating the mistake we made in the past. And also, we're not
Or
going
the
to
vicious
heal the pain, because we carry pain. A lot of things have been unacknowledged, unhealed in this country and all over the world, and it's because we carry that pain with us that is unacknowledged, that we keep repeating the same mistake.
it,
I always fun say, where cows are smarter, right? Because cows, they go to the electric fence, they touch it once, they'll never touch it again, right? They get electrocuted, they're like, oof, that hurts. And you see those cows in the field, they never touch the fence, right? They just know. But as humans, somehow we're going back generation after generation. We don't really trust our elders. We don't really understand what is creating pain, and we just keep repeating it. And that's, yeah, I think devastating in many ways, because of the consequence it has on us.
do you see that as do you see that as a cultural thing or is it a human thing?
I think,
Or both?
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of bashing around, the patriarchy and
Right,
the
right, right.
capitalism and the Western world. And that's true. I think, the systems, they're definitely designed for extraction, and extraction means oppression, so bodies and people are not going to be the value here, because the value is the stock market. But I think there is also something in human nature, that is prevalent, because those conflict and the way we treat each other, they've been here for thousands of years, way before capitalism, way before, colonialism even, right? So that's universal. Somehow the seeds of suffering, of human suffering are universal. I mean, the Buddha was talking about it,
Mm-hmm.
5,000 years ago.
Right.
So it's there, but the context has changed. The context has changed because we are, 7 billion now. That we're all intermixed much more because we've traveled, and we that, and because we're hyper connected through the internet,
Yes.
because we are hyper disconnected from nature and our own nature.
Selves. Yes.
So everything is amplified in many ways, which
Yeah.
means everything is in many ways is more urgent. Because if like 5,000 years ago we were to consume the way we consume today, it would have had no impact on the planet because there were just so few of us. We could have had 20 TVs and 50 cars each, and probably the
Right.
planet will be okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
But today, because there's much more of us, and everybody, and you can't really blame anyone, wants to live in a certain modern world, the
Right.
impact is much bigger, right? So yeah, I think capitalism, colonialism, the Western ways, in many ways, have built a system of belief that
Yeah.
is very individualistic and therefore doesn't really work, because we are interconnected with each other's, interconnected with the natural world,
Yeah.
and a very individualistic view of the world. That's the very Western mind. That's not a indigenous perspective.
Yes.
That's not how, if you go in a tribe, it doesn't matter if it's in the US, in the forest of Brazil, of Peru, in Africa, in Asia, in the jungle,
Same.
there are a set of beliefs that is very, very similar. And that's what is interesting, right? It's not about origin or culture. It
Yeah.
was there at some point for everyone. I just think, I think white bodies lost it longer time ago, thousands of years ago, at the
Yeah.
beginning of Christianity, right? Um, but we have to go back to that wisdom. It doesn't mean going back without modernity. It doesn't mean going back living in the forest, but we have to go back to
With
ways of relating and ways of understanding ourselves and why we are here,
yes.
that are timeless, that works. And I'm the living proof of it, and the people I work with are the living proof of it. But we need to bring that more into our societies, because people are in great need of it, I think.
People are as disconnected as they can be, it seems like.
Yeah, and I think people are scared. There's scarcity. People are worried, and so um, it's hard, for when we are scared and when we're not sure about the future and all of that, to make big changes into our lives.
Yeah, I agree.
Also, it's, in many ways, it is a privilege to be able to do it. Many people can't. They just don't have access to ways of doing that. And I'm also very conscious of that.
So what let's talk about your school,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like that is something that is so needful right now. And I feel like, you know, because we're in this crazy world and everything is going on in it, and I don't know about you, but I know that I'm not from here. Too
Mm-hmm.
chaotic. I don't like it. And so what I'm asking is what was your vision for the school in order to be able to help people, to come back to their God self, to, find consciousness? What was the overarching theme of why you created the school?
I think, uh, those questions of who am I, where I'm coming from, why life, what is this life about? I think those are, those were questions from philosophers in the ancient Greece. Those were they were questions. They are the same questions of those people in the jungle in Peru.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
difference is there they have answers, not based on a belief system or a religion or a sacred book, but based on direct experience with the non-human world.
Mm, I love that.
The trees, the land, the animals, the stars, the rivers, each other's, also the human world too, right? But mainly the non-human world. And once you start hearing about those teachings, that for some people might sound very bizarre that they receive the teaching from a tree, from a plant, from a star, from a river, from the jaguar. Um,
Yeah.
they feel like home.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm thinking of a student of mine that was studying with me years ago, 4 or 5 years ago now, and I won't say her name, but this woman is not coming from that world, let's say, right? And she's a very successful businesswoman, right? She owns hotels and lands and restaurants and farms, many different kind of businesses, right? Um, she's never been confronted with this teaching, and then I met her at a retreat that I was running, and she came to me at the end, say, I want to learn this. I want to know more. And she came into one of our program. And I remember it was maybe the first or the second class of the year. I was sharing some of the first teaching that are usually around the land and the fire and what indigenous people say about it. What we can experience if we connect, if we know how to connect to those non-human beings.
Yes.
And she was like, Angel, when you shared that day, it was on a Zoom call, and there was a lot of students there. I didn't really see her there. I knew she was there, but I didn't really pay attention. She said I had to turn my camera off, and I started crying and sobbing. And it was this grief of remembering something that I've missed my whole life, but I didn't know I was missing it.
Oh, yeah.
There's the grief like I lose someone I love, obviously I'm going to grieve for that. But it was this deep grief of elders she never had, connections to the land she never had, and way to connect to herself that she never had.
Mm.
And she started crying, and she said, I felt home for the first time. I think she was like 55, right?
Oh.
She said, I felt home. And I think that's what I find very relevant in it, because it's not a belief. When people say, do you believe in that? I don't believe. I know. I have direct experience with it.
Yes.
And yes, when I teach you, it's going to be a belief. But
Hmm.
what I want you is to practice, to experience it, to have your direct experience.
Yes.
Because I'm not a priest, I'm not a guru, I'm not a messiah. I'm just a teacher
What?
giving you a teaching.
You're
Yeah,
not?
no, we're sitting in a circle. I'm a student like you. I'm a
Right.
student of those ways, right?
Yes.
And the way you would experience it and me would be different, and it's
Yes.
not one way is better, right? But
Yes. A
every
God.
single person that learned those things always say it feels like home. I don't know why. It's so different than home. It has nothing to do with home, what I would call home, but it felt like I was home. And
And
that's why I know it's universal. That's why I know it touched the soul, the heart, the things we share with each other.
yes, because everything is, if you think about it, just like what you just said, is all these people felt like home, but home is different places for all the people, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But it's still this like an innate feeling, like something that you feel deep inside of you that, you're able to express as home. And that's huge. That is so
Because
huge.
it's not a thinking. I'm home. It's a
Yes.
deep feeling, and it's not even, it's in the heart, but it's, I would say it's even more, it's in the belly.
Yes.
It's down there. There's like a, yeah, that's right. That sounds, if I engage my mind, it's going to sound crazy, but if I really sit with it, I relaxed, I open, I soften, I connect. And
Yes.
I think that's what homes is. Homes is a feeling.
Yes.
It's not a place,
I
right?
I agree with that because that, oh my God, I have said that probably 3 or 4, 18, 20 times. I'm like, home is not a place, it is a feeling. It is a place that you get to within yourself. And that's so powerful. Um, Share a little bit about going forward, or share a little bit about how people come to you, like how they find you as far as, the space that they're in when they find you.
Well, I think, many people find me through podcasts or YouTube videos, and my book. I've written a book called The Sacred Web, which is about making your own sacred space altar, but not from one perspective, just a more universal perspective. And then now word of mouth because of the school, and it's been so many years we've been doing it. Um, and people find me through the Sacred Purpose Blueprint, which is my main program, because a friend went through it or they heard about it and they're like, um, I know there is another life for me.
Isn't that beautiful?
I just know there is potential. I just don't know how to tap into it. And I've been so scared for too long, and I'm ready,
Mm,
or I want to explore, and for me, there's nothing more beautiful than giving someone a tool that's going to allow them to really blossom. Because not only when we do that, not only we change, but we're going to impact so many human beings
yes.
in our families, in our relations, is all
Yes.
the people we meet, right? We're going to impact the world.
Yes.
So it's not it can sound very selfish sometimes. Oh, I just want to find my purpose and be aligned with my life, but in fact it has nothing to do with selfishness. It can look like it at the beginning, but it's very selfless,
Yeah.
because it's for our children. It's for my daughter. It's for the world that is to come, the
Yeah.
world that is birthing, right? And that we, like you said, we want it to feel like home too.
Yes.
Right.
That is that's powerful medicine.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're able to give it, because I know for me, I feel like sometimes I feel like things are bursting out of me, and I just want to give it. I just want to give it,
Hmm.
and it just feels so aligned when I look at how your school has come about and how the transformation that you made and the transformation that you're making, helping other people to make. It just feels like one of those things that feels like it's your destiny.
Yeah, it's the path, right? And it's also the meaning of life. The meaning of life is to discover why we're here. What are the gifts? We all born with gift. We come full. The Western world, we're told we come empty, and then we have to go to schools and
Fill
universities,
up.
and this is what's going to make you. This is who you're going to be, right? But from a more ancient perspective, we come full. We're full. We're complete.
Yes.
And that's a much more beautiful idea. I think the idea that we come empty is quite dangerous, because then obviously you lose your power, you think you're not enough, and then every kind of ideas can come into you, and then competition, and then fear of the others. I mean, that's the way it comes in. If you come full, if you come complete, with a life to experience, with gift to be given, with things to grow, it's a very different experience of relation
Mm-hmm.
and of unfoldment into this life than oh my God, I need to go to school for 20 years. And, you know, I have a PhD. I went to school for a long time. I went to university. And I'm not saying you should not do that. I think you can go in parallel with it. The
Right.
question is, it's not the money. It's not like, I always tell people, you know, money, I don't believe money is the root of all evil. The question is, it's going to amplify who you are.
Yes.
If you're insecure, that's
You're
going
going
to
to
be
be
used
insecure with
for
money.
that. If you're greedy, if you're hateful, if you're violent, I mean, whatever you are, and then you're given the power of money, yeah, that's going to amplify it. If you're the president of a country and you're hateful, that's going to impact millions, right?
Yes. Yes.
Um, so it's more about finding, okay, I have this gift, I have those resources. Some people have beautiful voice. Some people are mathematician and they can see science and can
Yeah.
solve, you know, big things. And how do we serve them to the world as medicine,
Yeah.
as creating more life, as creating more connection instead of poison, instead
Mm.
of greed, instead of separation, right? And we all have to be, that includes me, very careful about how that unfold, because we carry so much of those programs, all of us. You know, you asked me earlier about those seeds of humanity. We all carry hate, we all carry fear, we all carry violence,
Yes.
you know, and we have to cultivate this garden of love, this
Yes.
garden of connection. And sometimes weeds are going to come up,
Yeah.
and we're going to say something we regret. We're going to, you know, have a behavior we regret, right? But then we course correct, then we have tools to return, you know. So we keep remembering ourselves, basically.
That's so powerful because that is exactly what I was hearing like all week. Remember who you are, remember who you are. And it's something that I think that so many of us don't even consider. We're just not in that space where we're looking at that. And I think too, so much of how we as a society and as a culture, where we're going, I'm pleased with how the kids that are coming up now are coming, because they're coming through and they're not, money motivated like a lot of, us were. And just like you said, nothing wrong with money. I love money, money loves me, all that, But the thing of it is where is their heart?
Mm,
And why, and I actually talked to my own children about that because they're in their 30s. And I said, you have to consider if this work that you're doing is worthy of you.
mm.
Where is your heart? And so that's something that I see so much. But I can see now through these younger kids, especially not the millennials, the ones behind them, whatever they are, Gen Z or something.
Mm.
Those kids, those kids are coming through and they're woke and they're looking and they're searching. And I'm glad to see it.
Yeah, I mean, there is a huge cost to sacrifice the heart,
Yes.
to sacrifice our purpose,
Mm-hmm.
to not changing,
Yes.
to live a life where we kind of know it's not really our life, to live some kind of lie at some level, you know, to live with unresolved stuff inside of us for decades.
Yes.
You know, I was talking to a client recently, and someone that was about to become a client. She was not a client yet. And, you know, was sharing about the investment in the program and the time and the money. And she's like, well, I could do it, but I would have to sacrifice many things. And I was like, yeah, right now, for the past 4 decades, you've sacrificed your health. You've sacrificed being aligned with your life. If basically you're sacrificing happiness,
Yes.
ultimately, and joy.
Yes.
And yes, yeah, there is going to be other kind of sacrifice to do, but the question is, yeah, what do you want to sacrifice?
Yes.
What basically ultimately is, what is the value we put on ourselves? If we think we are little and we don't have much value, you're not going to invest in you. You know, you're not worth much.
Right.
But if you have the deep belief and experience that you might change the world, because we all have this in us. And when I say that, I'm not saying you have to be Mother Teresa. You can be a gardener. You
Yeah.
can be a school teacher. There's many ways to change the world,
Yes.
right? Um, then you're going to want to make all the sacrifice necessary to have the biggest impact, to be the
Mhm.
biggest gift
Yes.
to humanity, right? But very often the ego doesn't want to change. We love our pain. We've been in our pain for so long, and I see that for myself. There is stories that I'm really attached to, even if I know it don't serve me, and I
Yes.
have to work on them. This is my work. It's to work on that.
Yes.
So,
That is the work.
we've learned that to compete with each others, and it's always a competition at school and sports and companies, but really the only competition is with ourselves.
I
I
said
always tell people, you're not competing with me or with anyone that you think you're competing with. You're competing with yourself,
yesterday.
right?
That's what I say. I said, if I can be better than I was yesterday, I'm good. I'm much better.
That's the only one, right? That's the
Mhm.
only one. But we look at others and we're jealous or
Yeah.
envious
Hmm.
or we gossip, right? And we think, oh, they're doing better, or I'm going to copy that, or I'm going to do that instead, right? We place the competition outwards. This in fact, that's just my own stuff. And really that's what's limiting me right now. The
Yeah.
only limits for myself, even for me that has been doing this for so long, is me. It's still me.
Yes.
Still me. It's my belief. It's what's not healed yet.
Yes.
It's what I believe is possible or not. It's how
Yes.
much I love myself, how much forgiving I have with, when I fail. That's the only competition, right?
Yeah. Because
Ego and heart competing all the time, right?
we do that. I mean, unconsciously most of the time.
Yeah, yeah. Unconsciously,
And because
completely autopilot. Yeah, yeah.
right, we've been conditioned this way. This is how we were conditioned. You go play sports and you got to be the best. Now, I don't agree with what they're doing now with giving everybody a trophy. I think that's bullshit. I mean, I think that no, but I think that they could do it in different ways, you know what I mean? Still celebrate everybody, but I still think that the winners should get the trophy. But anyway, that's a whole nother thing. So are there anything that you are doing, like anything that you're enrolling, any programs that you're starting or anything like that? You can share any of that kind of stuff and then share where people can find you. And then I have one last question.
Sure. Well, I have a lot of free stuff. Um, People can go on my podcast, my YouTube channel. I share a lot of teachings that are accessible for everyone. Then I've, kind of entry program on-demand courses about exploring what we were talking about
Yes.
that are quite affordable. And then I have my more master programs like the Sacred Purpose Blueprint for people that feel ready to step into this kind of life. Are
Yes.
like, okay, my program is 12 weeks, it's 3 months, but in 3 months from now, I want life to look very different, radically different.
Yes.
And if you rate yourself, I always ask people, where are you in your life? 1 is I'm not at all where I'm supposed to be and my life is horrible. And 10, I'm completely aligned. If you're not a 7 and 8 every day, then you need to do something about it. If you feel you're always at 4 or 5, let's get you to 10. Let's get you to 9, right? And yeah, that's the sacred purpose. Is the idea is to bring people into that prayer, into that perspective of themselves, and into that life, into manifesting that, because then the world is changing.
Yes.
Then we are, on a good path altogether, right?
Yes.
And we need that. We all need to do that.
Yes, we do.
you
That is
know
a necessary thing. Okay, so the last question that I have before we land this plane, I ask all my guests this question because it just popped out of my head one day. But if there was anything in the world that you could change, what would that be and why?
I was going to say just myself. Keep changing myself, and all the place that I struggle to change that. Yeah, that's because that's the only work really we have to do.
Mm,
It's easy to say hate and wars and hunger. Obviously, I don't want kids to die. I don't want people to be hungry. I don't want
right.
people to be killed because of who they are. Um, but all that is not, this is the consequence of our inner misalignment.
Yes.
The war, they don't happen out of a vacuum,
Yes.
right? Slavery didn't happen out of a vacuum.
Right.
Colonialism didn't happen out of a vacuum.
Right.
Extraction of Earth's resources to a point where it's unsustainable doesn't happen out of a vacuum.
Exactly.
It's all coming from this misalignment.
Yes.
And so if I could touch everyone just with a magic stick and we all come into full alignment with our true self, well, that would be a miracle, but I can't do
Yeah.
that. So I'm going to start with me first.
I was gonna say that would be phenomenal. Can I have that? Bing! You're aligned.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. The magic stick.
Yes, we're gonna do that. We're gonna just create that thing and have a magic stick and just
Hmm.
and do it energetically so we can do it to everybody all over the world, right?
Yeah, we can do some magic. Magic exists, and I've experienced it. But yeah, I think on this big question, let's be just humble and say, okay, let's start with myself every morning when I wake up
Yeah,
to set a good intention to be grateful for the day. Sometimes things are quite simple in
yeah,
some ways, right?
I agree. God, this has been a phenomenal. I have enjoyed this time with you. I could probably talk to you another hour.
Me too. It was lovely.
It was. We had such a great time and so many different things that came out, and I know that, you are what is needed in this planet. You and in addition to so many others, but you're what's needed in this planet because what I hear you saying is that you help people come back to themselves. Because what I've seen is that most people are disconnected from them, and I know that in my work, that's usually the first thing I have to work with is to bring people back to themselves, to be able to feel and to be able to hear and to be able to know and all of those things and all of these gifts that we all have inside of us. But it's like they're so disconnected because they're, over here looking at, the news and over here looking at what's going on in the war and what's going on with Israel and Palestine
Mhm.
and Ukraine and Africa and Sudan and Haiti and all these other things. You know what I mean? They're not connected to their own self, to their God
Mhm.
self. And so I'm so appreciative of this work that you're doing in that because I know that it's going to help to change the planet.
We all matter. We all are important.
Yes, we are.
And that comes with great responsibility,
Yes, absolutely.
you know.
All right, so I thank y'all for joining us on Straight Outta Savannah. My guest Angel has been here and he has just delivered in a most amazing way. So I'm sure that he has some things that you can use because I'm telling you, look over his stuff. You'll see his details in the show notes. But, he's just an amazing human and I love the work that he's doing. And if you can be a part of it, be a part of it. Also, he has a podcast that you can hear as well, and all those things will be in the notes. So make sure you go over there and check him out. But we thank you for joining us on Straight Outta Savannah today.
Thank you so much.
Uh, You've just finished watching Angel Deer join me on Straight Outta Savannah, and he talked all about his amazing school and how he really helps people to transform and he helps people to connect to their God self, which is so important to me and is really so aligned with my goal and what I do. And so I love the way that he talked about how he was able to transform from being a business owner and it sounds like he had a really good successful business and everything into consciousness and how he really he was being pulled and drawn into that space. So I'm super excited to bring these type of interviews. If you are a spiritual entrepreneur, please reach out to me and let's connect and get you on my virtual couch. And I'm super excited. And so, also, if you are looking for phone sessions, I've just started doing phone sessions. They're 30-minute sessions on the phone where we can talk about whatever you need to talk about, do a healing, I pray, all of those things. Messages from your guides could come through, sometimes messages from heaven, but it's a 30-minute phone session. We do it, it's $55. I'm super excited to present that because I haven't done that before, but it's something that I heard the need for. I heard some of my clients talking to me and they don't want to do Zoom or whatever. And so this is a way for us to connect by phone and super reasonable. So if that's something that you're interested in, make sure that you reach out to me wherever you are watching this. And thank you so much for watching wherever you are. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. And make sure that you let other people know that we are here and we are interviewing spiritual entrepreneurs. So if that is you and you want to get your message out, join me. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.